The issue that we are now tackling is lawyers taking advantage of the criminal justice system. Now, these comments came forth following the CARICOM Symposium on Violence as a Public Health Crisis, and the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ras Gonzalez, he took issue with this, raising it at the symposium. And we have joining us now the President of the Criminal Bar Association to give us his thoughts and share with us how he interprets these comments from the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Senior Counsel Israel Khan is with us via telephone. Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you and your support staff and all your listeners.
Well, thank you very much for joining me. You already stated publicly that you support the statements that there are indeed attorneys who take advantage of the system. To what extent do you agree with it, or on what grounds are you making the argument that there are indeed lawyers who take advantage of the system?
Well, what has happened? First of all, the system is overburdened with cases. Like magistrate courts list, they have about 150 cases a day. So there are more cases than they could do. So they readily give adjournments to lawyers who are seeking adjournments in order to delay the determination of the matter. Other sizes, they are also crowded. But in order to solve this, the judges and the magistrate must take a firm hand and control the courts and ensure that this small group of lawyers, and they are criminal lawyers, like myself, I am a criminal lawyer, the manipulating the system. So I agree with that statement.
Mm-hmm. Now, I would argue that there also appears to be from some of these lawyers a get-rich-quick scheme. Even legal fees are prohibitive. Is that part of the problem here in Trinidad and Tobago, where lawyers are actually taking advantage of their clients financially?
Well, first of all, unfortunately, the people who are involved in having matters in court, like they have been charged, they are people coming from the dispossessed society, by and large. They are not people who could afford fees, exorbitant fees. So they are really poor clients. So I don't think that is a fair criticism that lawyers are exploiting the clients, because fees that a lawyer will normally charge if a client could pay is about 3 or 4 times the clients are paying.
Mm-hmm. Because I was told of one example where one individual was taken to court, was actually being sued. Not going to call names or the case, of course, but the judgment was actually made to the defendant, in favor of the defendant. They were awarded, I think, $400,000. Sorry, they were awarded $134,000, but legal fees were $400,000. So even the judgment that was awarded, which they're saying that they can't get paid to as yet up until this point, they still have to pay $400,000 to the attorney. So there seems to be a great imbalance between what is being awarded and what is being paid to the lawyer.
In that particular matter, that would have been a civil matter. Mm-hmm. That stemming from a criminal matter, maybe wrongful prosecution, malicious prosecution, falsification, etc. The client himself would not have to pay that $400,000. The state will have to pay that cost.
Mm-hmm. Well, the client has stated otherwise. But anyway, moving on, should there be a recommended fee structure to try and help?
If the client has to pay that $400,000, he wouldn't get anything, because the lawyer will keep the 100 and something thousand and still have fees for him. That is ridiculous. That is preposterous. The state have to pay that.
Well, that is an issue that we can speak about off air. Should there be a recommended fee structure in place? Or is there a recommended fee structure that's in place?
Well, in relation, it has been suggested and accepted. The Law Association has suggested, and the legal profession has accepted, that a senior counsel, if he is tabulating his fees, a senior counsel will charge between $3,000 and $4,000 an hour. A senior attorney who is not carrying the rank of clerk could charge $2,000. That is in relation to fees. But you cannot really put a price on the ability of a lawyer when he is in court, cross-examining, etc., etc. There is no stipulated fees then. It's what the market can bear.
Moving on to from the
There is
fees.
no stipulated fees for doctors also, incidentally.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Moving on though to the issue with respect to taking advantage of the system, it has been touted that lawyers actually procrastinate and try as very much to extend the case as possible. And I know there's also an issue, as you mentioned earlier, with respect to a backlog of cases. So cases sometimes have to be adjourned for whatever reason. But there have been instances where perhaps key witnesses have passed away, where files have been lost. And I'm not actually alluding to any recent case that has been publicly stated on behalf of the state. I'm speaking generally in instances like this happening. How do we try to reduce incidents like this from taking place again?
Well, a very small group of lawyers, especially in the country areas and so on, and in Port of Spain too. What has happened, the only way we could solve that problem is the magistrate and judges have to take a firm hand and say the matter is proceeding. The lawyers are not in charge of the courts. It's the magistrate and the judges.
But it seems as though, sir, that these lawyers have already been identified. If by your description, a small group of lawyers, these troubled lawyers have already been identified. Is that so?
Yes, we all know the lawyers in the profession. We know the lawyers in Cuba. We know the lawyers in Shogunas. We know the lawyers in Rio Claro. We know the lawyers in Sandy Grande. We know the lawyers in Port of Spain, who really not really desirous of bringing a matter to conclusion, but just postpone the case. But there are thousands of cases in the system.
I want to move on to this thousands of cases within this system. This issue, as you've mentioned, it's up to judges, it's up to magistrates. But this backlog within this system, has there been any suggestions at all, whether it be from the Chief Justice or by extension the judiciary, to try and clear this backlog?
There has been suggestion, and this, wherever we practice the system of jurisprudence we are practicing in the entire Commonwealth, they have backlog of cases. Because there's a presumption of innocence. The onus is upon the prosecution to prove its case. You must have the person being represented by attorney in serious matter. But they do not have the political will in order to really suggest that is the government of the day, government come and government go, to suggest a system or implement a system where they can expedite the matters. First thing that must be done, they must categorize murder into first, second, and third degree murders, and have bail for second and third degree, and emphasize proceeding on first degree. They should have proper plea bargaining. The plea bargaining system should be made simpler, where the accused person could plead guilty, and if they get a term of imprisonment, that they know that if they behave themselves and over the prison rules and they enter programs in prison and rehabilitate themselves, we have a parole board. We don't have a parole board which will let them out.
Well,
also,
go ahead, sir.
Also, they must staff the DPP department with the necessary professional staff it needs in order to prosecute matters. So there's a lot of things to be done, but I seem to do not have the political will. This thing didn't happen overnight. It crept up on us over, and we have been talking over the last 15 years, 20 years, more.
Well, I'm glad you also raised the issue about bail for murder, because that's another comment that the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines he suggested at the symposium. He's questioning how serious judges when they grant a bail for someone who is charged with murder. And publicly, I've heard citizens suggest that should not be the case, where there have been instances of people who have been charged for crimes of lesser severity, who have been granted bail and then returned to the streets only to commit murder.
Well, look, the statistic would not support the Prime Minister in relation to that. It's only recently the Privy Council said that a person, a murder charge, is entitled to go to court and make an application for bail. That is his constitutional right from time immemorial. The judges and they have not been granting bail to murder accused, since this happened, willy-nilly. There's a few who have been granted bail. Nevertheless, there are people who are locked up for 10 to 15 years, charged for murder, and they cannot get a trial date. Who is to be blamed for that? It's the person who is in charge of running the judiciary and the person who is in charge of running the government. What has happened is that why is the DPP staff, professional staff prosecutor, they need 84 to 85 lawyers, and the government has not supplied a lawyer to prosecute. When a case starts in our system, a murder, it takes about sometimes 3 weeks, 3 months. The Vindra Naipur case, in which I was the lead prosecutor, took 2 years to be completed because there were 74 witnesses, 12 accused, 30 lawyers representing the accused, which the state had to pay for. So the systems are bogged down because you have to prove the accused committed the offense. But it's morally wrong and legally wrong to have a man locked up, presumed to be innocent, for 10 to 15 years. It's not the lawyers to be blamed for that. It's not the DPP to be blamed for that. It's not the Chief Justice to be blamed for that. It's who our Constitution says that the Cabinet shall have general conduct of the government and accountable to Parliament. And not this particular government, as every government not putting resources into the judiciary to expedite murders. You know why? Because prisoners are not allowed to vote.
Well, that's an interesting take. So then, are the politicians focusing on the wrong directions then? Well, clearly they are, based on what you're suggesting.
Looking for scapegoats they're looking for. Look at this escalation of crime. We are speaking about crime. Look at the newspaper today. 5 murders, and they had a symposium just 2 days ago. 5 murders committed between yesterday and last night.
So these politicians who are responsible for enacting legislation and trying to clean up the system, could we make an argument that they're actually enabling the system?
They're not. Of course, they're looking for making subterfuge. They're trying to scapegoat it. They're trying to push it on the judiciary. Politicians are not only responsible for enacting legislation. Look at this nonsense that our Minister of National Security is saying. He is not legally responsible for having a crime plan. He is totally wrong about that. The Constitution demands that every minister have a plan. If you're the Minister of Health, you have a plan for keeping the country healthy in relation to hospital and doctors and so on. If you're a Minister of Transport, Minister of Health, if you're a Minister of National Security, which you receive billions of dollars, you are saying that it's not your responsibility to have a crime plan. He should be fired immediately upon making that statement. Because for 7 years he had been Minister of National Security, so he had telling the country for 7 years he never offered a crime plan to the country, nor the cabinet. And he's trying to say that it is the Commissioner of Police who is responsible for this crime plan. Under the Constitution and under the Police Service Act, the police commissioner cannot design a crime plan. That is a political enterprise. She cannot get involved with a political enterprise. It's the Minister of National Security and the Cabinet.
What do you think of? I understand your feelings, your thoughts as following the expressions by the Minister of National Security. But what are your thoughts on this entire CARICOM symposium that took place just a couple of days ago?
I think they're moving in the right direction. But I'm very disappointed they didn't really discuss money laundering, importation of cocaine, importation of arms and ammunition. Because the United States authorities know exactly who is bringing in these guns and cocaine and who are money laundering in Trinidad. That is what is fueling the crime in Trinidad. Because if you're importing cocaine in the country, arms come along with it, and ammunition. So there is a step in the right direction. They're talking there's an escalation of crime. So let us see what they're going to do about it.
But Mr. Khan, Senior Counsel Khan, listen, a step in the right direction by having this symposium, a step in the wrong direction by a Minister of National Security not having a crime plan or saying that his responsibility is not a crime plan. So I don't know, it seems as though we're stuck.
But he has been saying he's not responsible for a crime plan even before they had this symposium, or they're going to discuss this symposium. The first thing is, we have no crime plan in the country for the last 7 years since this minister, because he has admitted that he's not responsible for that. He's totally wrong about that. Just last night, Martin Daly, a very senior counsel, indicated that he's totally wrong on a program on CN3. Legally, he is wrong, totally wrong. And how come he remains a member of the cabinet still and he has no crime plan? How come? Because he could sell raffle tickets to raise about $40 million here, the Prime Minister, to build a PNM headquarters? Or because he might be a sycophant of the Prime Minister? Mm-hmm. The Prime Minister is supposed to fire him immediately because he has no crime plan, but the Prime Minister would have known he has no crime plan because none was submitted to the cabinet. So, besides he not having a crime plan, what about the other? What about the cabinet? What about the Prime Minister? Is there a crime plan?
Mm-hmm. Well, Mr. Khan, as we conclude this conversation, you said the symposium was a step in the right direction. I hear you with respect to that. Has there been any steps in the right direction from the Office of the Attorney General, by extension the Judiciary, the Law Association of Trinidad and Tobago, and the Criminal Bar Association to try and fix what we can safely say, arguably say, is a broken system, a broken criminal justice system? Has there been any concrete efforts to try and make the system more efficient and more effective? Because all this talk and all this conversation is not leading to anything.
Yes, you see, in the final analysis, it comes down to resources. It comes down to money, the final resources. They have to allocate a budget to the Director of Public Prosecution Department. If they're serious about crime and prosecuting crime, they have to revamp the police service. And they have to have a certain section. They have to have a certain section of police officers who are on the ground, properly trained. Not shooting at people wantedly, but bandits must understand that if they are committing crimes, they are confronted with the police. The possibility exists if they shoot to the police, they will all be dead. These police must be a specialist squad who will take them out if they shoot at police. With home invasion, we now have home invasion. They should pass a legislation saying this is a specific crime, that if you have a home invasion, whether you make it a capital offense or 25 years penalty and expedite this matter, they should have a special court dealing with gun courts, like in Jamaica. They must have the political will to do what is right.
But Mr. Khan, could you just emphasize once more on that first part that you suggested with respect to a special squad to take out individuals who shoot at the police?
You see, the bandits, the police now are really afraid to shoot at bandits, because if they kill in an exercise and somebody is shot in the back or shot somewhere, they are ordering inquests. Some of the police have been charged, etc. There are 300 inquests pending in this country. That is 300 citizens have been killed by police existing in this country over the last 15 years. And the Chief Justice has not set up the coroners to investigate these matters to see whether the police wantonly kill these people or they were justified. So that's the first thing that could be done. But they have to allocate a budget for him to have about 10 coroners saying these matters, right? The first thing. Mm-hmm. The second thing is to set up a separate court, a gun court. If you're charged with guns and ammunition, they presume to be innocent, but they expedite the matter. Also, like we have a problem of home invasion now, pass legislation to make it a very serious offense. Mm-hmm. Home invasion is not an ordinary offense, This is an attack on the sovereignty of the state, who was constitutionally must protect the citizens of this country.
Mr. Khan,
You know who is being attacked? The middle class people, the people who have jewelry, the people who have motor cars, the people who have cash. These are the people. Look at the areas where the bandits are entering. Balsin, upper middle class area. They're not having a home invasion in Lavantil. They're not having a home invasion in Caroni among the dispossessed people. So the government must get serious.
Mr.
And
Khan,
protect the citizens, all the citizens.
my final question, if it is we are not able to currently resource the existing structures that we have in place, what makes you think that opening a gun court is going to help the system if it is that we probably can't even resource the courts that we already have?
No, you see, in a court, they hear all sort of matters, all different sort of, including the gun possession of arms and ammunition. In Jamaica, they had a problem and set up a gun court, and they said they were constitutional. What will happen? They'll have trained judges hearing these matters, and they don't have to be postponing. There's only arms and ammunition in that court, so they don't have the other matters crowding it up, and they could expedite it. They could have 3 gun courts set up.
Well, Mr.
They
Khan,
have a special court set up for home invasions.
Mr. Khan, I want to thank you very much for joining me this morning. There's a lot more that we could have gotten into and expanded upon, but unfortunately time does not permit, so we'll have to conclude it there for now. But thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome, and thank you.
Keep well.